I'm just going to go through some of the songs that I hadn't shown on stream, because the last stream I hadn't written these past 4 or 5 songs. This first song I was actually kind of sick when doing, so the vocals aren't the best, but the song's still pretty good. BTS was my biggest inspiration for that, though I'm going to be sad they broke up. You guys know BTS broke up? I found out yesterday, actually from him.
was left for me to go. So I won't take anything longer. You would know the end.
Time we spent ignored. I knew it was the last thing I would never say before. It was too late to change a thing. Time we spent ignored. I knew it was the last thing I would never say before. It was too late to change a thing.
Alright, I think I'm just going to go ahead and start because you guys have heard this song. The funk song. We'll get to that one later. So, day 0, I called that, is because this was my test to like see if it would actually work at all. Because I didn't know if I was actually going to be able to do this. This one was basically, I wrote like a persona song, I thought.
One thing you learn is to not take for granted the one thing you couldn't have seen. Time and time again, you couldn't have taken the thing you have legend for me. Not for you. You couldn't take away like it was here. You left for me to eat. You crossed the line. You took from me. You couldn't see your destiny.
Alright, so it started with that little thing. That little. Without that reverb. I don't know why there's so much reverb there. Started with that little thing. And that was pretty much the basis for everything, but that. I basically brought it in. Very standard chords, but with everything else, with like the way the drums work. A little the drums were really here what actually set the vibe more than the guitar. Obviously, I had that little like. I don't remember how I played it. Yeah, that thing too, but mostly it was the drums here. Brought it back. So most of the song is. Now I'm going to go in a little bit into theory. I don't know how much into theory I'm going to go, but this little thing, pretty sure it's like Phrygian, and most of this just minor, but this little part is like adding a little like kind of bluesy feel, so it was to change, the feel. And then
One thing you learn is
that rhythm there is actually taking that, making it more metal.
one thing you learn is to not take for granted the
Is one thing you can do to actually implement some previous parts into like a way that actually builds on it versus just using the same part over and over. No, I don't consider myself even close to a micro celebrity, but that'd be cool.
One thing you learn is to not take for granted the one thing you couldn't have seen.
An important thing to note here is with the drums, specifically the snare, the actual like putting it like halftime right here.
One thing you learn is to
Is it one, two, yeah, it's like every other note. Doing that allows you to actually change the feel of the song, and that's part of how you add the groove and you add the nuances to the song and make it different versus making the exact same thing sound the same the entire song. Like, it's a little hard to notice on this song because the drums are a little quieter, but the drums also go into double time in this verse, meaning the snare goes double time.
One thing you learn is to not take for granted the one thing you couldn't have seen. Time and time again, you couldn't have taken the thing you have left here for me. No.
And now this pre-chorus, yeah, I have been recognized sometimes, but I don't consider myself that known. Anyway, the pre-chorus, I actually use that same rhythm, but I just changed up what notes are doing it, what the root is. So. And that allowed me to use a similar idea, but like kind of bridge it to a different part.
Not for you. You couldn't take away like it was here. You left for me to eat. You crossed
And this was just adding vocals on top of like what that initial part already had.
you crossed the line. You took from me. You couldn't see your destiny.
And that is pretty straightforward. It was just a vocal idea that came to mind. And that part was just kind of utilizing all the parts together, like that. That was just kind of a riff, but then use that like kind of metalcore type sound I've been using. But then later that use that kind of bluesy thing. It's kind of like adding consistency and adding that part earlier. Yeah, so I was pretty happy with that one. That one pretty much told me that I could do this challenge. Now, this next song is one of my least favorites. It's just, it didn't work, and I realized really early after doing it, like 15 minutes in, that I hated the idea, and I scratched it, but I was already on the clock, so it's a little rushed. Nickelback and Killswitch, I've never heard them being compared together before.
I can't promise you were here with me.
So I'll just run through these as we go, so we're not listening to the entire song again. It's really simple. It's just going down a scale. Oh, I forgot I was in a different tuning. I'm just going to pitch shift real quick. That's just a major chord. the scale. It's a very standard thing. I added some like to make it sound all pretty. That was me figuring out what chords sound right in what situation. So just figuring like this is the fifth, fourth, fifth, and back to one. And the more you hear those, the more you understand, even before writing anything, what will sound right in what situation. And this was just to add some continuity with the beginning section.
Was it so hard to say what you were thinking? Instead, what is driving me insane?
That one's pretty simple, same thing. You just start in a different spot. Like I start on the fourth, so it doesn't start in the same chord, because the entire song stays in. It sounds a little monotonous, so just to give it something different. Later on, I added the chorus back.
Then leave me from the lies I said, ruin all alone.
I'd add some vocals on top.
Save me from these memories, let me here to go for you.
Now that's an important thing to note, is that changing up the drums halfway through helped a lot to give it some variation.
From me, nothing you would do would change.
Even just that double bass adds a whole lot. So sometimes adding little things to change the drums help to where you're not just copy and pasting and doing the same thing twice. All right, we're going to skip the rest of that song. Oh, what was that? Anyway, we're going to go to the song I actually want to talk about. This one came to me, I was just in the shower, and then the entire song got in my head, and it worked perfectly. So before we move on, I'll talk about that. This one's very simple, just it's just fast zeros. Then, you know, a squeal. I just figured out notes that worked. The whole point was it just need to be fast and a little something like that. Now this. That was to, like, that's going to be the chorus, so that was to give it some, like, lead up. Like, you're kind of teasing the chorus, but not giving the entire thing yet. So you're giving one section, and later on you'll capitalize it and you'll showcase the whole chorus. Common way to end that into here, and then it leads back to the zero, and then we're back here.
Was pushing further to the edge. My mind sees the message you are taking from my life. This can't yes, a sound. Your life from me.
So that part's interesting because now we switch up the scale and we switch up all the vibes. So instead of, and we're going. Yeah, I did. But this next part, now, sometimes I intentionally do things, sometimes things just kind of sound good or they just kind of happen. Like this one, I didn't plan. I was thinking, oh, I'm going to switch to Phrygian right here. I was like, oh, that sounds cool and that fits. And, you know, I just thought that sounded cool, so And now when I first thought of the song, I didn't think of doubling, you know, that back and forth with screams, but it fits really well with this part. And holding out the scream and doing like a high scream on one part, low scream on another part, helps a lot. So that ending, I'm just bringing it back at kind of home base, bringing it back to the scale, bringing it back to where, you know, to where I can go back to that riff. Because otherwise, I would have had to try to figure out how to make it go smoothly when it's too late.
Say what you read. See through the pain. You couldn't take this pain from me.
So, that, obviously that first part was the same part where you went. But I changed to where it's halftime and it's not, it wasn't as fast of a feel. It was a halftime feel, so you're like. And I changed that chord too. It's a little more vibey. You hear the drums also go. It's halftime. Another thing important to note is the vocal melody changes to match that part. Because this part was a little higher, it was a little more in your face.
Say what you read. See through the pain.
And then
You couldn't take this pain from me.
a lot chiller, you went down, you went into that halftime. Well, thanks for showing up. Gotcha. All right, well, the ending of this is just. Just ending with the again. But that one I liked. It was kind of condensed. It was kind of short, but it worked. And let's go to song number 3 now. This one was another one that I did not have enough time to actually like finish up. So I kind of made a rule for myself after this point that I'll spend a little more time on the vocals if they're not done. Like the chorus in this song doesn't have any vocals because I just ran out of time. But I decided, no, I'm going to spend a little more time and finish everything so that these songs are a little more complete. So I like this beginning. on a clean tone. I believe it was this note. Just a typical major chord. We're in B major, but we don't have to worry about that. That's like a minor 4. It gives a very specific vibe. It goes. It was just like a fancy chord that was a little weird of a scale, but I wanted to have something weird there. Then I went, which is flat 6, flat 7 to 1, and you'll just be seeing that a whole lot in these songs because it works really well. And then I did that with like a distorted guitar, the same chord progression. So same thing now. This time I did that same thing where I go half time and then I go with the double bass. I had the double bass. So that was just to end it with something a little different.
It's so hard to teach him something new. Now you wouldn't know my time's come.
And that part, I'm not really happy with the vocals, but it's fine. Trying to do something with that first scale I introduced it, while making it different enough to be the verse and not just rehashing what I did earlier.
Now you wouldn't know my time's come. And now you know the distance will never seem to lay. Wasn't here before, you wouldn't have to say.
Now that one is the same thing, but instead of. So I'm opening it up, and you can hear with the snares, it's double time right now.
And now you know the distance will never see.
Even though I don't like how the vocals sounded, that part still works, and it adds to add more energy to the verse. This part's the same thing. So. So that's song 3. It's okay. Those are my least 2 favorite songs, though, out of the all 30, because I figured out kind of a groove from song 4 on. So that's just like a kind of a standard riff. I don't remember exactly how I played it. I was basically giving myself different chords so that when the chorus comes in, I could work with it, so it's not just the same notes. Anyway, after I did that, I just did the same thing double time. You guys get the point.
Time seemed to show up different.
See, part of it is that I put a lot of thought. I did. Part of it is from experience and knowing what to do in certain situations, because not everything I did here was purposely planned. I'm not gonna pretend like I was purposely planning on song 2, for example. A lot of that stuff just came to my head. It wasn't just I was I'm a genius. I was planning on doing blah, 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 blah. So some of it, like, for example, the theory behind a lot of this stuff, I'm actively thinking about. Sometimes it just sounds good. Like, I thought about this is just a slowed down, and I changed the chords up a little bit.
And it seemed to show up different. All I knew was how it ends. But what can I do to prevent this? With something I could say instead.
And that part was just to open it up and go a big note or big chord. And then
I'm tossing and turning in my dreams away from the side I'd have to say. I'm stuck in your lies and you'll see my side. But what can I do for you?
that part really was helped by the vocals. If the vocals weren't good there, it would have sucked. So those chords were, I was trying to like kind of lead things together like that. To make it was more just to give like a pop punk feel and just to kind of add to that. I'm tossing and turning, that kind of idea I was doing, and it helped it make it actually work.
I'm tossing and turning in my dreams away from the side I'd have to say.
So, and now this is just the chorus with vocals on top. This one was a little harder to make work than I thought it would be, but it still works.
I can see it was the end for me. You're looking forward to the ones I have to pay. And though it was the last thing I would say, just save you from nothing. I can see it was the end for me. You're looking forward to the ones I had to pay. And though it was the last thing I would say, just save you from nothing.
So that one, by the end, I just did double time. I did the same thing I did in the beginning.
I can see it was.
Yeah. So this next song was with a 7-string, so I'm going to switch real quick. So, big boy drop F sharp tuning.
You're looking for.
Forget if I click anywhere, it takes it off immediately. So this one, I just want to go for like a gent tone, like. All those squeaks are because my gate isn't on strong enough when I'm doing 7-string. But, you know, it's like really standard stuff. But, I wanted to do it. It works with the drums. If you had the drums in, it makes it actually sound full, and it wouldn't work just as guitar. And now most of the song was not thought ahead of time. So I just kind of like did that little gent riff, and then the rest of it kind of just came in because sometimes I actually planned the whole song ahead of time or had an idea. This one I had no idea, so I just kind of went with it.
Too much you were. I can't believe it was the last thing I have seen.
that was very simple guitar-wise, this part.
Too much to her. I can't believe it was.
It's really just to let the vocals shine right there, but like that. That was just to kind of add continuity to where this part. So where you actually did that again, so it wasn't just random out of nowhere.
I can't believe it was the last thing I have seen. Not knowing where I'm going, with looking.
So that part. Something like that. It just, I wanted to make a bouncy riff. There wasn't any theory or anything like specifically behind it. I just wanted to make I just found notes and they worked. This song particularly. Because it doesn't, not really in the scale. It wasn't like, I had to throw theory completely out the window for this one. And that vocal melody could look, I tried to make something like fun and match the bounciness and like kind of like the grooviness of that part.
Not knowing where I'm going, with looking for a reason to fall in places. Just something to believe in, you can feel it calling.
And that's something to believe in, you can feel it calling. Keeps that kind of almost harmonic minor sound that I was doing. And trying to add like elements of both vocal and guitar that flow with each other and flow with the song, because like just that bouncy part seems kind of random, but if you add different elements of like that, this like that, that's the same notes as.
You believe it, you can feel it calling. You can feel.
And I just did that in double time. So I tried to implement things like that to make things kind of continual, like have continuity versus just being completely random. Anyway, this part.
Seeing the answers to our problems are a thing.
That's it. It was just a way to lead to that big open note.
We're searching upside the skies for answers they be with the lies. But what can we do anymore? It's the end that we couldn't ignore. We're searching upside the skies.
So that part. It was trying to keep that little like that groove, that gent type feel, but also this big open chorus, and those vocals they're very high, but that's what fit for that.
We're searching upside the skies.
Anyway, later I do the same thing, double time, added like it. Just adding some like variation, a little more drive to the part.
We're searching upside the skies for answers they be with the lies. But what can we do anymore? It's the end that we couldn't ignore.
And that part use it. It uses that same way we ended right before the chorus, but kind of like a cheeky ending. Anyway, that was song number 5. I was really happy with that one. Now this next song, song 6, is the first one I did on a live stream, and I had an idea for the chorus. I didn't really have anything else yet, and so the first idea is kind of completely different, and I don't think they fit, but I try to make them work. So, like, if you hear this. It's just like a typical minor thing. I'm in still in 7 string, so actually no, I'm gonna switch again. So when you listen to a lot of metal and stuff, you notice how a lot of bands change. Like, for example, in metalcore, I know how a lot of them do their chord changes and their chord progressions. So that's a very standard one. It's actually a different one. Anyway, so I built that lead on top of that. And that time I added double time, and then I added a harmony. So it's something like that. Anyway, it added, you know, continuing the part, progressing on it, and adding the idea on top of it. That part's doing the same thing even more. I had like a double bass, and I had to like add a little tremolo pick. So that part, I added even more harmony, and I'm just trying to build more and more on top of it. And then I tried to use this pre-chorus as a bridge to that chorus idea I was talking about.
Can you see the ones we left behind in the end? Was it worth all that it cost? Too easy it was the way after you to die. Promise self-assuring pain, something you would never try.
So, yeah, because you can hear with that part, it sounds nothing like the first part. But since I know this is a major chorus, so if that is kind of minor sounding, this is the major of that scale. So I knew that. Since it's very major sounding, I had to do something to bridge that gap. So I found chords, and this time I had to like dig around and like figure out what worked for that. So that I figured out, okay, that works. That works to bridge that gap. Then it's a very common way to add and make it actually work going into major. So
I scared, was it worth all that it cost? Too easy it was the way after you to die. Promise self-assuring pain, something you would never try.
So that part, I'm going from major to minor in this chord, so it has that very specific sound that. And so, you left me here to die. It gave it a very specific feeling like that major to minor. It's kind of a bittersweet chord progression.
See, it was the way you left me here to die. Brought me self-assuring pain, something you would never try.
And also the way I'm singing it, I tried to make that first part, brought me self-assuring pain. And then the next part, something you would never try. Trying to give them their own characters, to where it's not just me monotone singing the entire time.
I can never miss the memories that left us here to be.
So that
I can never miss.
it was a similar way to go through those chords, but also in a different way. Like, you gave it different chords instead of just a. And part of what I did there was add something that you'll hear later is a very specific rhythm. So, and then you'll hear it goes back.
That left us here to be. How can you not see it was the last thing you could have said?
So you'll hear that rhythm there. So you took that beginning chord progression. Now it's. And so it added kind of like a bridge between that chorus and bringing back that first section.
You could have said.
Also, the drums are much more open there. It's supposed to feel like a lot more freeing feeling than the beginning. All right, so that was song 6. I was happy with this part separately, but I don't know how well they flowed together. But it's all right. Not every song had to be a hit because I'm making 30 of them in an hour. All right, so this is day 7. I gotta go back to the 7 string. Yeah, I can definitely hear how Don't Need You, like, it's a similar, like, kind of vibe. So this song was specifically from a song by Spirit Box called Silk and the Strings. I kind of wanted to make my own variation of that song and that kind of riff, that vibe, and this was the first riff that I came out from it. And that part doesn't really have theory. Like, I didn't think. I didn't think of anything specific, but I just heard those notes and I had to figure it out. And, you know, it just worked. That is a specifically more harmonic minor type thing. That I utilize a whole lot more in the song. I kind of did it just to give me like something to work with.
You wouldn't have taken that. Now you couldn't have seen it was the worst thing you said to me every day. But now you would never return. You only left me to die.
And that I use it. And now I add kind of a new rhythm into play, and that will become. It was like basically the rhythm that the verse had. But now I'm using different notes and different chords, and so I pretty much took that and made that rhythm into a pre-chorus, but now it's different because it's these notes. Verses. So it's kind of trying to keep the same feel and vibe, but change it up a lot.
You said never return, you only left me to die. Separating our mistakes will only lead to you and me. We're meant to be. We're one inside either way. Though we see it was the end, we're lost inside this endless war. We can't ignore. There's nothing you can change.
So that part, you know, I kept that same that went like very harmonic minor, gave it a very specific vibe. And of course I'm going. I have a lot of songs to go. So it ended up being kind of that minor in where the very standard ending. So I try to like kind of bridge those scales together. And this part I'm going double time. You can hear with the snare it's going double.
Though we see it was the end.
Anyways. So that leads into the chorus, which is, I kind of wanted to make it like almost dancey, almost like just kind of, you know, groovy and vibey.
You can change now. You left me for away. You see me from today. You know it was the truth of me and you.
So that part,
You left me for away.
the drums are like the most important to get that vibe because it has a lot of offset cymbal hits.
You left me for away. You see me
It's kind of hard to hear in this mix, but it helped a whole lot.
before away. You see me from today. You know it was the truth of me and you.
So a lot of times I like to do where that verse started with that F sharp, and I try to change where the root is. It's different depending on the situation. Like that pre-chorus, I wanted to have started on, I just think the 8th fret. But when you start here and make that kind of like the home of that part, it changes the vibe to where it's not just monotone the whole time. So by the time you get back to the chorus,
There's nothing you can change now.
you can go back to that 0, and then it now sounds completely new. It now sounds like a brand new chorus, and you're listening to a whole new section, even though you had already used that before.
There's nothing you can change now.
And then later after that, I just do the similar thing double time, adding more to guitars. I'm like, give it like kind of a tremolo vibe.
Now you left me for away. You see me from today. You know it was the truth of me and you.
So I just kind of brought the same, you know, that same main riff. So by this point, I was starting to get kind of a groove on how I rate these songs in an hour. I can't get too complicated, but also I can add a little bit extra than I was at first. This next song is a 6-string, so I gotta switch again. this one was a lot chiller. This one, I just kind of used some chords. It was a lot nicer to write too. I didn't require as hard of thinking. That one's a pretty standard chord progression. I just use a major 7 chord. It's a very specific vibe. Minor. Went 4, major to minor. I use that a lot. That's what I use in song 6, the one that specific vibe. So it's kind of a nice, like, it's a kind of a bittersweet vibe, but it's also kind of nice sounding. I did a trick that you can use a whole lot. When you start with a major chord and go to that minor, the relative minor, you can use the same vocal melody because both these notes both of them are in the same scale, you know, the relative minor. You can use like, you say it was over, and then going, I promise not to let go. The same notes, but because they have the same scale, all the notes are in the same scale, they work together. So you can use that as kind of a cheat code where you can use the same notes and then it gives it a completely different sound. They give it completely different sounds, but you can use the same one. And then the next one, you and me, you'll see. I just want to do something that kind of gave it that major to minor feel. It was too late. Just kind of added it back to where it was. Well, I'll play it one more time. You say it was over. I promise not to let go of you and me. You see, it was too basically change it from that being the root. I did the same thing I was talking about last song where I made that 4 major to minor. That became the root of that section. That's why it gave the whole section a different feel. And that's something I kind of used to foreshadow a later part, but it also fit there. And then instead of going to minor, I went to the 5th, which is very common to go back to the 1st chord in the scale, the root. And so, very common, very nice and standard sounding. Now we see, we knew it was too late. You say it was over. I promise not to let go of you and me. You'll see it was too late. So that used pretty much the same thing. Instead of going, you go to the to the 5th. Kind of like what I did earlier. It's just supposed to give it like a happier feel than earlier. I changed it up a little bit to give it, like, because now you're distorted, so you might as well change some things up. But mostly it's the same.
Now we say it was over.
Anyway, after we do that, we did the same thing a second time, like added a little verse.
And now time's come to remember the feelings you can never explain to them, the ones that need it most.
Now the next part, I add that same kind of, I don't know if you call it like a post-chorus or pre-chorus or whatever. I sang it very high, and I did not have a good day, so it doesn't sound very good, but it's utilizing the same thing, just distorted.
The words you left behind will never show. The pain you left from me, you never know.
In that part, I'm using that same. Yeah, the distorted version of what I was playing earlier.
How can I not see it was too late for me? You couldn't say it's too late.
Same thing, not the best singing. Whatever, anyway. I changed the scale up, so I went from, most of the song was in major, I added like a minor part. I don't know if I'm a fan of that part, but that makes you want to go back to the, but I tried to switch it up. And it gave it a little bit of a difference, and then that. That was to give it some continuity. Give it a little bit of major.
You couldn't say it's too late.
That's mostly just ending on the root, very standard stuff. So this next song was probably my favorite instrumental. It just kind of worked really well. So that beginning part, I kind of wrote or figured that. It's not really a chord particularly, but it kind of is. I realized that sounds cool. I don't know if that's a chord, but I liked it. And then I realized, oh, that chord progression works together, and then we did a similar thing. So that basically became the chord progression for the entire song. It was so it's just it's the same thing. It's just distorted. But that because it's going between different scales right now, that lead helps kind of bridge the gap a little bit. Now you hear in multiple parts. very similar chord progression, and that becomes the basis of the whole instrumental part. Part. What I was doing with the solo, I don't remember what I played, but it was trying to kind of flow things together. I realized the first part I wanted to make it slower, this part I want to go a little faster. And then we get this part, I played something really fast because this next part is really fast. It's a bunch of tremolo picking. So that part uses that. All the same chords, just and using a different context. And the lead, I try to figure out the right notes to actually emphasize what I was going for, because some notes would sound okay, but I spent a long time trying to figure out what exactly sounds perfect for that lead. And then I took even longer figuring out what the harmony was going to be, because it just was not working for a while. It was just like kind of a way to, a harmonic minor, a way to bring it back to home base. And it's the same thing repeated, but the point was to bring it back and like make it actually flow together versus just being pasted on and sounding kind of awkward. In this part, I just added that a little longer to like give some suspense, and then the big. I was pretty happy with it. Next song is the heaviest song I wrote in the entire thing. This one was one of those songs where it all came to me. It just all kind of worked in my head before I even wrote it. So that part. It's kind of hard. The biggest part was those drums right there. They had to accent and make it actually work. And this part became the chorus. And it's the same thing. I just ended it a little differently. But it was, I probably wouldn't do this in an actual song. This was me just figuring out the hour limit. But it works.
Searching for the reason you thought you could exist. You never escaped the season that led to the abyss.
So that was using actually that little like. So instead of doing that, I just did an octave lower and I slowed it down, and instead of making it all technical, I went. And made a big boy riff, and then I made the drums even slower.
Quit searching for the reason you thought you could exist. You never escaped the season that led to the abyss.
Made it a little different. Now I bring the technical back. I just do an octave lower.
Led to the abyss. I tried to hold up in the answers. Nothing left to be but restraint. I couldn't keep up my composure. Left me to the joys retreat.
And the drums are really important for that. Obviously, the fast pace and the little blast beats. Those are what actually make it work. Otherwise, it just would kind of sound stupid.
I tried to hold to the reason. Nothing ever said anymore. You couldn't take out your own reason. No reason to kill unto me. You wouldn't have led to this if you could only lead to your demise. The last thing you could have said would only lead to your demise. You wouldn't have led to this if you could only lead to your demise. The last thing you could have said would only lead to your demise.
So that I just did basically. I used the vocal melody as kind of mirroring what it was doing, and I did one kind of really low track. You wouldn't like. I didn't know if I could sing that high with that much grit. So I did a dual thing to make them both kind of blend together. If you could only lead, like I could do that pretty easy. So that part I knew I could.
If you could only lead to your demise,
So then I kind of brought some technicality to the riff. This one wasn't something I planned. I just thought it sounded cool when I was writing it, so I kept it. So that was that same. That same what the chorus was doing, but like. Just adding some like, techiness to it, but it's the same thing pretty much. That basically just did the verse riff without vocals. It's nice and bouncy. All right, I gotta change back to my 6-string. This one I was not too inspired when I wrote it. It's fine. It's a fine song, but I was getting kind of not burnt out, but I just wasn't feeling it today or that day, and then you just listen. It's pretty much what I would write if I just wrote like a standard without thinking a song I would make. It's just giving the lead some room to work. Something like that. It's fine. But then I add a harmony later. And that does help a whole lot to make it sound more complete.
You were fighting for the reason.
And that's just giving it some... Just some chords to work with.
The reason you cannot forgive is rain. And you can fight 1,000 wars. There's nothing you could ever say to let you go.
So that part, it's a pre-chorus, and I did the same thing where I changed where the root of that part is. Instead of just going, instead of the entire song, I go.
And say the life you.
Something like that. It was just something to add a little fanciness to it. I don't remember exactly what I played.
And say the life you wanted to go away. Seems time has gone in separate ways. I knew it was there. You couldn't take from me. You said it was too late.
That one, same thing. I figured out what chords would work. Goes back to that big open note.
It was too late. And today we find the lost and never to be found. I knew it was the last thing you'll say. Couldn't believe.
And that's, I also think when I'm writing that, what vocal melody would work on top of that. So, because I knew it was like I knew it was like a big open thing, so I would do it slower. Today we find. Like I wanted to make it more open.
Couldn't believe it wasn't the same. It's something you learned from me.
Not the best singing, but that part I couldn't believe it wasn't the same. I added a little more because it's more of a. So it's just the context of where you put it.
I never saw the last thing you would say.
So that last part I did in double time. It's to match what the actual like main verse, main riff is doing. You hear the drums are in the same time.
I never saw the last thing you would say.
So overall, it was all right, but it was definitely not my favorite. All right, so the next song was another song I did on Livestream. Pretty happy with how it went. Still not happy I messed up those notes, but I forgot how I played that. Yeah, so I did those two chords just to kind of show, like, kind of tease what the actual chorus would be, because that's those two chords. That's the a whole lot of harmonics that I will not remember how to play. But I did actually assemblers from an earlier song. I just, instead of starting here, I start now at the open. And worked my way up that way.
You take it once before. Now you say you couldn't live for me, and you had to go. I tried to say your words. Now you know you couldn't live for me, and you would have to go.
So instead of doing that harmonics the second time around, I did just more octave type stuff. Also, that features the hardest thing I've ever recorded.
And you had to go.
That was really hard.
I tried to say your words. Now you know you couldn't live for me, and you would have to go.
So what I did there was instead of just, I found a different place to start. And that gave it a much more harmonic minor feel, and I knew how to work with that, so that's what gave this a specific feel that I could like really make sound.
I tried to say you were me. I tried away. Save me from these broken dreams again. You'll see the last thing I would never say anymore.
And that part was really hard to figure out. I had to figure out how to get this being the root, so I went like, I figured it out, and obviously that didn't sound like it was that hard to figure out, but it was for me. So. And then it's just the chorus with vocals on top of it.
Cause it is not true for you. How could you know the truth? You say what is our life you know. How can you not change? Bring the winter for you.
So, that was the same thing. I just went really open and an octave lower just to kind of give it a chill ending. And yeah, it's different when you're on the spot and you're writing things. It seems like hindsight, you're like, oh, that was super obvious. But I've had a lot of songs where I just had no idea what to do. And then later I'm like, oh, I should have just done that. But at the time, it's hard to think about that. Anyway, this song 13, I probably have a few more, and then I might be done today. And I'll probably do the rest of them on another stream. But let's go through 13. 13, it was my second instrumental. I think I only did 2 in the entire thing, though. Was not my favorite, so we're probably going to go through this pretty fast. That was more just to set up like the chords that are being used in this part. When you go distorted, it's the same chords. It's just, I like to do sometimes clean guitars to set it up. That was just making it like have a little more tension. And I think this part I want to do like a clean break. Hold on. doing this, I forgot where I was. Great. When I'm doing this stuff, I'm trying to think about what adds to that lead-wise. Now, there's not a whole lot of time to actually make a solo. Like, I could make a vocal melody much easier, but when I was doing a solo, I realized it was harder than it seemed to actually make something fit and make something sound, like, memorable and catchy, because that all was just kind of improv stuff. And that is just each section I'm trying to think about what would fit there. Exactly what I played there, but that was one of my favorite parts. But I did something. I changed the scale and, you know, made a lot of fancy notes. And then I added an octave the second time to give it a little variation. That's something I always think sounded like something that would be off of Ride the Lightning. It's just pretty fast, and it just worked. I thought that worked well as a part that led past that, and I just like the pirate. Add a harmony. Now this part coming up, I talked about a little about flat 6, flat 7, 1. If you don't know what that is, that's a just a typical chord progression that it just works pretty much every single time, and it gives a very specific vibe that I use kind of throughout the 30 songs I did. Like in the final song, I ended with this. It just kind of like gave it somewhat of a motif or something like continuously done throughout each of the songs. That song a lot, but that's flat 6, flat 7, 1, flat 6, flat 7, 1. It's used a whole lot. Now this next one was one of the ones that actually made it onto a video, one of my favorites. So important thing to note there. So yeah, there's that riff. So that was all in double time. That was really fast, right? But then I went ahead and went in halftime, and changing the time and changing that feel makes a huge difference, as you hear. I did something to kind of like bridge between that and the verse. Thanks, Glenn. I'm glad you showed up to the stream. So I just did that to bridge from the beginning to the verse. And the verse is just typical, like, just chuggy stuff in 0, but it was kind of fit with what I was going for.
With searching for memories
that was a similar thing where I used those same chords, because those chords, and later I go, I did the same thing here. Just to give it some continuity and make it actually flow together and make them feel like they belong next to each other. That one had a little, add something kind of cool. But then I did something, it was kind of notes that just, like they're really dissonant when you play them together, but they work when one's doing this, when they're like, you know, played separately.
You couldn't stay away from all the things you left to waste. I tried to reach out for you, but there is no embrace. Too late.
And then after that, I went back to that riff and made that the pre-chorus.
I tried to reach out for you, but there is no embrace. Too late. I'll find myself in you. Too long. I'll search for the answers. Now time has come to enfold me. I knew you dream in silence.
I decided to keep that halftime because that fit better with the vibe, or that standard time, because that was fit better with what I was going for than the really fast double time. And then you go into halftime for the
Dream in silence. Say that you learned the truth.
it actually uses the same chords that was done in the verse. It just it uses the same. A lot of this song has a lot of similar ideas that meld them together.
Dream in silence. Say that you learned the truth. It's all that is left of me and you. How could I not see the end? You left it for you and me. You'll never feel alone.
And that one, I did the same thing in a similar song, or earlier song where
You and me, you'll never feel alone.
I made it longer to give it a little more suspense. But anyway, when coming with those vocal melodies, it's harder for me to explain because a lot of times that part doesn't have any theory or any like real reason. It's just what came to my head. So I guess practicing what would like sound good and like analyzing what songs sound good, like.
You left it for you and me.
So I just thought about.
You say that you were the truth.
I just thought doing it a little later, not just
Say that you
like.
say that you were the truth.
I just felt like that fit a little better. Just figuring out what specifically works for that song, and then I end it with the riff. Now this part I go into halftime, like not even just standard time, like I go completely slow. And that one is Bullet for Valentine, for example, use those type of endings a lot. Staying in minor scale, it just, I don't know how to explain it, it just sounded good. Alright, so this next song was like a very emotional song. I just was playing with this this plugin, or this setting. I'm using my Axe effect, so I use this preset. I made that, and then I went. One, then you got the 4, and the 5, and then 1. It's kind of just nice sounding. that lead was just there to just kind of give it a little bit of something extra and to lead into this part. That part just usually kind of changes. They're just standard chords, but they work well with what I was going for earlier, and they'll make even more sense when the vocals come in. But it was a nice way to just start off the song and kind of kick it off, versus then going back to this like soft verse part.
Stop you from this. All the time you led before me, I knew it wouldn't leave. You thought you'd see the warnings, you thought you'd know the end. I stood beside you waiting, didn't know it would be the last time.
So that was a song that I was able to sing lower. I like singing lower, and you saw you see the warnings. Like a vibe like that, I felt fit a lot with it. In my eyes, stop you from this. Anyway, I did that last part.
Though you know the end, I stood beside you waiting, didn't know it would be the last time.
And that, I had to do something to bring it back. Would be the last time. Was just a more, like a higher, there were higher notes, but it just worked more to actually adding the distortion back in.
Didn't know it would be the last time. You said it was the day you were meant to be. Now.
So that starts with a different chord. It was the same thing where I like to utilize different spots to or different chords as the root of sections. Like, for example, this song's been major the whole time. It's just been a major song. But starting in the fourth, gave it a completely different feeling.
Now you know it was the truth. Love on me and you. Take with me the promise. I couldn't see it was the end. You and me. I try not to remember. I couldn't see it was said and done for you and me.
All right, before I get into that part works really well because the lead and the vocals don't clash, and they kind of do their own things. I don't know if I planned this. I can't remember. I don't think I did. But well, that first, take with me, that part first, and then I forgot exactly what I played, but it goes, take with me. They just, because they're just slightly off, but they kind of flow together, it makes this really cool double thing where you have a two-part. Like, you could have someone probably singing that lead and it would work too.
Take with me the promise. I couldn't see it was the end. You and me.
You know, so it works. So I changed now to minor. Into that relative minor, and that instantly changed it, but I also had to change what the vocal was doing there. So that part, the guitar is doing the same thing. But the vocal went down, and then it started going up to where it basically is showing that like a different part's coming.
I tried to save you, but it was too late for me again. I'm fighting endlessly to leave you here.
So that one, like, you know, I'm adding more to it. I also added some sweep picking. Just to give it a little bit of, you know, stuff.
I tried to save you, but it was too late for me again. I'm fighting endlessly to leave you here.
Now I ended back on that major. Right? It was just kind of a way to, I don't know if I like that change necessarily, but it was kind of necessary to end the song and end it like in a nice way. You know, I just go, bling. All right, I think I'm going to do one more, and I might be good today. Because this song I really liked. So I've been going for 2 hours now. All right, so this song uses 7-string again. So that part, I don't know if I'm in the right settings, but we'll see. I'm using a dotted 8 delay, and it adds like what's going to be like a really component part of the next song. That's just part of using the scale. I think it's harmonic minor. That you'll hear. Anyway, that's going to become a main thing. And so that's also going to become distorted, but that mixed with, I'm also doing a go. And later on, I actually add the distortion in the background. Kind of set it up. So that gave it its rhythmic, and that gave it its like foundation. But I had like a lead. Let's see. I don't think I have a setting that would do it because I had to manually do some stuff. I basically just did an octave higher. I just did that. And then I changed it up a little bit. I added a different chord, but for the most part, it stayed the same. I added that just to keep it kind of a similar vibe, and it's real simple because this part is only caring about the vocals.
Traded my life again, so you would return to my eventual untimely demise.
But that part actually mirrored what the chords that beginning intro part was using. It's just used in a different context. In this part, we'll use similar things. It's more open, and I also had added another guitar in there to give it like some more life.
Timely demise. Look to the skies again to seek your answers. For all we know, was it too late?
Now, disclaimer, I don't like this part at all. I was bored and trying something new. It kind of works, like I added double time, but like it's not part of a scale. It's just kind of there. You'll hear.
Towards the skies again. You know it was the end. Now you shop and say you want. Trying for you to not exist. You said it was innocent. I never believed you would swim. You couldn't hide the pain. No fading of my memories. You said it was the distance. I never believed you were found. You couldn't hide the pain. The fading of my memories.
So yeah, that part I just added a variation, the same chords, but like that.
No fading of my memories.
Then I sing it heavier.
You said it was the distance. I never believed you were found.
Now, what's more important in that first part is figuring out what vocal melody works, because you could easily have that, that lead guitar. You could have a vocal that clashes with it, but I realized like a kind of like a mellow, kind of like a long, laid-back type of vocal worked really well.
Said it was innocent. I never believed you would swim. You couldn't hide the pain.
And I just felt that worked well. And now after this part, it just the kind of the beginning, but it's just distorted.
Of my memories.
And I just ended on the. So yeah, that was basically the first half. I have like 15 more, but I think I'm going to be done today. It's also my birthday, so I'm going to do some stuff. But appreciate you guys for coming out and checking the live stream, because this project took forever. So I'm glad I can do something like actually explain how these things work. I'm going to keep the live stream in a playlist so that like it can actually be seen. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for checking it out.